let me ask a different question to you, Caleb. Is for a company that's maybe never been intentional about their culture, um, where do they start? Like, where do they start?
I would start with walking around and talking to people. Have some questions designed for every level in the organization. Meet people where they're at. Find out what do they like about the company, what don't they like about the company. And there's an art to that because they need to feel safe that they can actually share that with you. And so there's an ability to, help them to be vulnerable by you being vulnerable and saying, "Hey, I want to know how my company's doing. I want to get better. What are some things we can do to get better as a company?" And so I would get as much of that information. You could do the surveys, you could do all that stuff, but I frankly think it's best to go face to face and look people in the eye and try to break down the emotional barriers that would prevent them from sharing, because a survey is going to go only so far. Half the people are going to fill it out, and it's not going to feel like you really care. It's just going to become another email. So that's how I would go about trying to figure out, where am I at? Have a vision of where you want to be. Again, back to your filters, what's important to you, and then start to communicate what's important to you, and then start to make those decisions with new people coming in. That's your easiest way to make this change, and then start to work with those that might be in between there. When you get clarity around it, you start to talk about it. Here's our culture, here's our values, here's what we want to see. And people start to go with what the old saying, what you focus on expands, right? And
Mm.
words matter. And people need to hear things 10 times before they're finally listening for the first time. So you take
Mm.
those concepts into play. One, focus on it. Two, the definitions again, and get your words that you can repeat over and over and over again, and then do that. It starts to become second nature. I'll give you an example. Our vision frame, we have these things we call marks. How do we know we're on track? One of those is that we're worth every dollar. So people know this saying. Another one of those is that we're crushing it. Another one is our
Mm.
reputation precedes us. And so, people come back from a job and they're like, "Oh my God, we crushed it, man. We're just crushing it this month." And so these things get in the collective vernacular, and then that starts to build culture. I'm going to go a little tangent here, but it's so important to think about this. Back to culture in general and what you were talking about. Words create action, and words create action based off of energy that comes out of the picture we feel or see out of that word. So the word creates a mental image. The mental image creates emotion within us to be able to take that action. So when you think about
Mm.
people, the people business, it's so cool when you really start to understand the people business. It's not human capital here we're talking about. We're talking about human souls, and we're talking about people who
Mhm.
have energy levels. I call them oodles. We all have a certain amount of oodles of energy. And we have more oodles of energy when we're clean burning. It's like great gas is coming in, we're burning clean, we're being more efficient, we're getting way more done because we've got all these oodles of energy. Um, the other one is the negative side. So when people are struggling emotionally, they just get less done. And so many times our job as leaders is to create as much clean burning energy and emotion in the organization as possible, because that gets more done. Happy people produce more. People who like their jobs,
Mm.
like the organization, and like the people they work with get more done because they care more, they want to stay there, they want everybody else to do well around them, and the opposite is true. And so if people still don't take this seriously, I would tell you you're missing out on a huge ROI of the time invested and the money
Mm.
invested to create this clean burning energy in your organization, which has to do with dealing with people emotions. And if you don't like humans and you don't like the mess that we all are, because we're all messy, and we all bring our home
Mm.
stuff to work, and we all bring our work stuff home. And if you don't treat your job as a bit of somebody who has to be a bit of a closet psychotherapist and psychologist and understand the dynamics, get out of leadership. If you
Yeah.
don't like people,
Yeah.
get out of leadership, in my opinion, and don't run a company that has a lot of people because you're just doing the world a disservice.